visual view. There we go. Hi.
Close this, and we are live.
I do feel like I should have put some makeup on or cleaned my room, but at the same time, I'm like, no, this is where I am today. I'm working from home. This is what you get.
Yeah, it's good. I like it. Welcome to another episode of enLIGHTen Up with Div and Diana. And today we were just chatting about relating, and this concept Diana was sharing with me uh, some problems that are there, misalignment that's there in current relating, with needs not being met, and an experience of her partner's experience of feeling like um, her suggestion. You share well your suggestion to how to.
So I have someone in my life who I choose to call a friend boy rather than the more regularly used boyfriend, because we wanted to negotiate our own style of relationship with no expectations, sort of preconceived expectations. We wanted to set them together. And so we introduced a system we call the rules. So whenever something comes up, like, oh, this isn't okay or this crossed a line, we introduce a new rule. For instance, even if we have vague plans and not committed plans, the second that you know that we're not going to see each other, you need to let me know so that I'm not still assuming that there is a chance of plans. These are the sorts of things that we put in place in structure. And we've been doing that for a while and it was working great. But in the last month, there's been a lot of boundary crossing and a lot of unmet expectations. And they are like set expectations, not ones that I have in my brain that we haven't discussed. They are actually, because that's the other fun part of a relationship, when people are like, how did you know I didn't need that? So they're all very, very clear. And there's sort of like, there was an initial week where things were a bit, ooh, and then I was like, we all have bad weeks. We've all been a bit busy, but it's been persisting for a while. And so when we were recently talking, I proposed that rather than continuing with this thing that isn't working, we use the knowledge from this experiment and take a step to the side back to when we were just friends who happened to see each other romantically from time to time. But we weren't actually dating. We weren't actually in a relationship. And when I suggested this, there was a very strong, I don't want to take a step backwards. No, like, I don't want to break up. And I'm like, oh, I'm really not suggesting we break up. I'm suggesting we keep doing all the bits that work and let the experiment rest for a while until such a time that we both feel that we can do it again. And it's just been a really interesting experience to sort of have this reaction of like, oh God, no. And I'm like, really? It sounds like a great deal. We still hang out, we still see each other, we still sleep together. It's just that the expectations can drift away for a little while we're both focusing on our own things, and we can come back together.
It sounds like you put to him an opportunity to renegotiate the way in which you are relating with one another.
Yeah.
And his interpretation of that was,
She's
yeah, she's dumping me, and take a step back. I heard you say. So this idea, what came to my mind when I heard that, is this concept of linear relating, like there's an order in which
Oh, the
things
progression
go,
thing. Yes, that thing
right?
where it's like, first we flirt, then we date, then we're in a relationship, then we get married and have 2.5 children. Ugh.
Exactly. And so if you do it in any other order, you're not doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
This is the way it's supposed to be. These unconscious scripts. So the idea that you might recognize, oh, this isn't working for us right now. Let us, as you said, return to the last time we were really jiving and connecting. Um, let's go back to that and go from there, because we knew that was working, and let's go from there. And so what comes to me is the concept of, the ladder, the hierarchies, the ladders, progressions, 1 step, 2 step, 3 step. versus the idea if we're just in a kind of playground, if you will, is the seesaw any you know, is it a downgrade when you go from the swings to the seesaw, that kind of thing. And when we hold that metaphor of this is the direction a relationship is supposed to go in increasing in what time together and connection, intimacy, whatever, then there can be a feeling of failure, feeling disappointed, rejected, feeling dumped, whatever, when there's a suggestion, let's, spend less time together. If the model suggests that, the more time we spend together is what is progression. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I think it's the point of hierarchy that you brought up, I find fascinating, and it shows up in so many places for me. Particularly the whole dating is better than friendship thing that I see very often played out. It's where we get things like the term friend zoned from, like somehow being someone's friend isn't the most awesome thing ever. I see that one a lot, and I think I find it really interesting because I've been a lot closer and a lot more emotionally connected to some of my friends than I have my dating and relationship partners. Um, I just don't have sex with them. That's, or some of them I do. Yeah. But that, like, it is interesting when there is this sort of mental thing, and I don't think they'd mind me mentioning it. I saw it play out really strongly last year during my parents' divorce, when, as far as I could see, they had a relationship that wasn't working. So they moved to a new relationship where they could go and live their separate lives, doing the things they love. They're both at the retirement age. They have different ideas of how they want to spend that time. And so to me, I'm like, awesome. Once I did some personal work, there was a lot of crying and like, inner child at the start. But once I did the personal work, it was very much like, oh, I am so excited for them. They are now going to go get to live separate lives awesomely. But the feedback from the world around them, from their internal systems, was very much, we failed, we fucked up because we're divorced. And as if that is a bad thing. And I don't see that divorce is a bad thing if it's freeing and more happy, and yeah. So
Well, that brings me to the what comes to my mind is there are only three things that I'm willing to promise someone in relationship. Only ever three things. I don't know if I've shared them with you before. Have I shared them
I
with
think
you?
you have.
The three things that I'll promise someone in that I'm relating with, regardless of whatever kind of commitment they're asking, this is what I'm willing to this is what's comfortable for me, you know. Um, I will look after me to keep myself in a way in which I can be loving, so that I can access love ongoingly. I will take care of myself so that I can be loving. That's one thing I will promise. The second thing is I will communicate honestly, candidly, to the best of my ability. I will I will be honest in my communications. And the third is I'll keep my side of the street clean, which means if and when I F up, which is bound to happen because,
We're humans.
right?
Yep.
I will sincerely, genuinely apologize and make adjustments to my behavior. I will take responsibility for what is my part.
Yep.
And that's it. These are the things that I'm willing to promise someone. Nothing more than that.
Yeah. I'm just sort of going, that is so weird because I have a few things that are in my relationship paradigm, sort of like the things I'm willing to commit to, which are compassion, so love,
Mm-hmm.
communication,
Mm-hmm.
and the third one is like I will do. How do I put it? I will do my best to hear clearly what you're trying to say and make sure that this doesn't do too much interpreting and spinning it around. So I think very similar. That's I've never found the right word. I refer to it as like cleanness or clarifying, or I've never really found the right word for the third one for me. But those are essentially the things that I want to bring to a relationship. I want to bring love and compassion, communication, where we work together to communicate as best we can, and that as much as possible, I know that I'm a very messy human being, and I'll try and keep that mess as much as possible clean in my relating with you. And yeah.
It sounds like that third one is I will see you.
Yes, that's a great way of putting it.
It's what that's what how I interpreted that was I'll try to remove my stories and interpretations and just
See what you're trying to say. Oh, I have an
me.
example of this that I wrote in Life of Sarcastica, my book.
Mhm.
I wrote it as a cartoon because I do struggle to find the words for this. But I remember very clearly a specific story where I brought someone a coffee, and I was doing in my mind a nice thoughtful gesture of bringing them a hot beverage, which I know they enjoy because I also enjoy them and we've shared them many a times. And they got offended because I got their order wrong. It's a large soy latte, not a large skim latte. Um, and got really upset and really offended. And in that moment was the first time it ever clarified and crystallized for me how if you're only looking at the surface and using your interpretation, then it's very easy to feel like the world isn't loving and supporting you. But if you're looking at what did the person intend, that's when the whole world is suddenly full of really loving, awesome people. And that's the best metaphor explanation I've ever been able to find for the thing I'm talking about, which is look for what's behind the words and the gesture, not just at the words and the gesture themselves, because communication can get real messy.
Yeah, well, I put that in the category of keep myself loving. Like that lumps into that because what that is to me is presuppose a positive loving intention,
Mm-hmm.
which not everyone does. It's important for me to presuppose that all behavior has a positive loving intention, no matter how dysfunctional the behavior is.
Yeah,
There's still a positive loving intention.
always.
Always.
Sometimes it's hard to find. Sometimes you really got to dig through a little bit and go, I know it's in here somewhere. I know it's in the trash pile. I just gotta go find it. But it is always there. I've never cleanly and deeply looked and not found a loving intention in any action. I have had messy, distracted looks because I didn't really want to find it and not found it, and then been like, see, there's nothing loving here. But that was because in that moment I wasn't clean and I wasn't in compassion.
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. So I wonder for friend boy, when you hear him say, um, like throw a tantrum and say, "Oh, you can't do that, can't," you know.
It wasn't a tantrum, it was just some upset. I shouldn't use the word tantrum. Now I'm feeling judgy.
Well, but the sense of there's emotional. I use that word to describe when the insecure parts get activated, the
Yeah.
child parts get activated. When we get a little,
That's the mental
how
imagery.
I use that word, so it doesn't feel judgy to me. I throw tantrums when
Oh,
my
me too. For
child
me,
parts get activated in that way. You know.
if I'm hungry and or tired and then something bad happens, whoo, the tantrums I can throw. Huh, I'm amazing at it. So good. So yes.
Mm. Yeah, so I'm curious what you might see as his intention there, his positive, loving in what can you see?
Well, I
Yeah.
journaled about this morning because that's how we do our work. And what I'm hearing is there is acknowledgement that right now this isn't awesome for either of us. But we still love each other very, very much. And just because the relating isn't awesome right now doesn't mean that any of the love and compassion and awesomeness that has been there is gone. It just means we're not accessing it right now. And what I hear when he says that is essentially like, I guess part of me hears some, I don't know if ego is the right word, but it's the word that's coming to me. Some of me hears a um I don't want to have failed sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the other part of me hears you don't care about failing at things you don't care about. For there to be that concern over, I wanted to make this work, there is still a lot of loving and caring there. And what I've suggested is that we put aside some time soonish. It doesn't have to be this week. Maybe we need some time. That's up to him. But we put aside some time to sit down together and have a really clear discussion about what's working, what's not working, and how we can both make adjustments in our expectations and communications to either keep dating and reassert those boundaries and make it clean relating again, or take a step in a different direction and try something else for a while.
Mm. Mm. Um, what comes to me in the communication piece of that, as you share that, what I hear, um, I have this saying, so love or call for love, and so that recognition that the fear of having failed is an indicator of the the love that's there, the genuine, desire that there be quality relating, and so um, mm, I wonder how, when someone's taking something personally, that's really not for them to take personally. When someone's feeling bad about something, that's like, oh, I should have done better. I'm like, well, you can't do anything about what's going on inside my body.
Yeah.
But thank you for
Oh,
for
that was a huge part of the discussion last night. He kept choosing language like, I fucked up. I get it. I've been shit. And every time I kept clarifying, no, you haven't. No, you haven't. You have not fucked up. You have not done shit. What's happened is between the two of us, because it takes two to relate, there has been a lack of communication and a lack of love as of late that we need to address together. There are many ways that could take form. I don't know what's going to happen. That's part of the fun of life. But there has been no failure on either person's behalf, in my opinion. There has just been a failure to connect, if anything. And it's not any one person's fault, you know? There is nothing that um no, that's not quite what I'm trying to say. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say it's not up to either of us to be the one responsible for keeping the relationship, and I hate using good and bad, but keep the relationship working for us. It's a team effort. And lately, it's like the team hasn't been showing up for practice. That's all that's happened. And there are legitimate reasons the team hasn't shown up for practice. That's a thing that happens. But it's something that needs to be addressed if the team is important to the people that are on it. Did Divya freeze? Did I freeze?
Mm,
Oh, there you are. I thought you froze.
yeah. Um, and there's wisdom in the hand gestures there around connecting, where when one has kind of my experience is one will have maybe lower self-esteem and take things personally, like, you know, I fucked up, I'm shit, and the others like, actually it's the relationship. And so there's this taking it personally and looking at the relationship, so there's not the same kind of like connection, because here is I'm responsible, here is we're not connecting, and so it's not operating from the same space of uh, like you're not even in the same place of personal pronoun, like use, you know, one's in I and the other's in we're, so it's gonna be trickier. So it's either we're not connecting and we're both in that, or I'm, you know, I'm shit like that
Well,
kind of.
it's too. It's very clear to me in the past couple days we're operating from very different starting systems, and it's the classic like you're trying to transfer a file from Windows to Mac. Mostly it'll work fine, but every now and then it glitches because those are two different operating systems. So you need to work harder to find bridges, to find ways of editing the info as it goes between the two things to make sure they can communicate.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I think, what do I think? I think it's important for both of us to take some time and get a little bit clearer individually on why we're relating in the first place. What is it that we uh, what is it that we want from the relationship is one question, and the other for me is what are the needs in the relationship, because there are some things that I need in relating, um and other things I don't. And this, I mean, this is where we go into like love languages and apology languages and so on and so forth. Like there is so much to unpack in different needs and expectations, because you know, I have a friend, she gets shitty if her boyfriend doesn't text her once in the morning and once at night before bed. That is a rule in their relationship. She wants a good morning text, have a great day, and she wants a how'd your day go text at the end of the day and love you, good night. That would drive me up the freaking wall. We've got lives to live. I'm not spending half my day on my phone telling you about my life. I'll tell you when I see you next. There are different needs for each person in each relationship. There are some people that I require, like, I really like cuddles from that person, and that's the thing that I feel connection with you with. Whereas other people, I'm like, take it or leave the cuddle, but I love our chats. And so, even as friends, even if it's not romantic relating, it's still relating, and there's still negotiations to be had about these are things I like, these are things that, these are things, please don't do them, you know. And my number one thing that I will say till I'm blue in the face is I spent a lot of my younger years thinking that I was unloved because I never told anyone what to do for me to feel loved. I was like, how dare you not know? I I did a perfect, if you don't know, I'm not going to tell you. I did it so well as well. Like I'm really impressed by how much I believed that it was their fault. They didn't magically know what was going in my head and what I needed. Nowadays, I
That's
am,
what people do. A lot of people
oh
do
yeah,
that. Okay.
oh yeah. I still catch myself sometimes if I'm under resourced slipping back into that every now and then. I notice that I like do a like, how did you not magically know that I needed this thing? And then I'm like, you should probably go have a snack and a nap and work on yourself if you're imagining that they should know what's going on up here. Because it's hard for me to know what's going up here all the time. How is someone else supposed to?
Hmm. Anyway, I interrupted. Continue. So you were saying the thing that you say until you're blue in the face is, uh, you
Is
hadn't
communicate your needs. It's communicate what you want and need, and don't imagine that the other person knows. Um, I know a really old weird story about a couple where the thing that made the wife feel loved was if the husband took the time to rearrange the fancy cushions back on the bed first thing in the morning so that it looked all perfect and presented. That was the thing that to her went, you're signaling your love and affection and care and concern for me. He never thought to do it because it's a bed. I'm just going to sleep in it again in 12 hours, and who's going to see it but us? So it doesn't bloody matter. It wasn't until they communicated on this that he went, sure, why not? It's a minute every morning. Doesn't take that long. I'm happy to do it if it helps you feel how much I love you. I personally would never have guessed that arranging the pillows meant anything. To me, it's like a meh. So.
Oh, well, if we don't share the meaning that we've made of things, then we're not really giving another person an opportunity to meet or join us in our reality.
And because we're all on different journeys getting to where we are today, we've all put meaning in very different places.
Yeah. Well, um, that that kind of, I think, brings us full circle to the aspect of the different kinds of relating that we can do. And even, when Deb and I talk about the different kinds of consciousness, the different types of consciousness, how likely people are to see them in as hierarchies and stages, how the mind wants things to be progressive and linear, and it takes a a practice mind to release that and really enjoy playing with whatever turns up. And to hear when someone is kind of hurting themselves with the story, and to have compassion for them when they're telling themselves something that might not feel so good for them, and to do what we can to support them um, in having the type of experience that they desire, let's say. Yeah, because I know, my theory is none of us suffer because we actually want to be. We just have no idea how to not. So.
Well, I'm having an interesting experience, and it's a topic for another day, actually. In recognizing that this person that I love is telling themselves a story that's causing them pain, and I can take the time, because I love this person, to reassure them that the story they're telling themselves is not the story that I have going on in me. But I can't actually pull them out of their story and make them feel better, because that's rescuing. And it's not my job to rewrite someone else's story. I am open to sharing my story as an alternative if they want to pick it up. But there is a good chance they don't. And I can be okay with that, which a few years ago I would not have been able to do. I would have been like, it's my fault they're hurting. Nowadays, I can recognize that someone else's story is that someone else's. And it's that moment where you got to go, actually, that's not my task. That's not my job. I can only share with you my story and where I am.
Great wisdom in that. So, shall we wrap it up there for today?
Sure.
Thanks for joining, and let's see what emerges in next week's episode of Enlighten. Bye for now.